What's going on YouTube? Chris here. I want to bring you all an update today of BTC. And what we're going to do, we're going to be looking at this on the 1 week chart. I wanted to step back and really take a look at some history. The last time Bitcoin was in a bull market, I want to kind of measure those retracements, just kind of show you where we're at now in comparison to where we're at today. And what you have to remember in this market, don't let FOMO or that greed or just the fear rule your life. That's one thing I can tell you. When you're trading, you really have to be able, sometimes you even have to be able to sit in a loss when you know how the market's working and you have all your strategy in front of you. Sometimes you have to stick to it and sit through those losses for a day or two before the market starts going in your direction, sometimes even up to a week. And that's just part of trading, and you can't get too emotional with it. One thing I would really suggest, is that fear. There's sometimes when Bitcoin really makes people nervous and they sell at the wrong time, and then Bitcoin all of a sudden whips around and it starts going in the direction that they were anticipating the whole time. So you can't let that greed or that FOMO or just the fear in this market rule your life. Always try to think with a straight head. What I like to do, I like to write everything out and go through, what's the Fibonacci looking like? What's the volume looking like? Where are the moving averages, right? All the bullish case down, all the bearish case down, and then get into my technical analysis and just really break it down and see, is this a good place for an entry or not? And what I wanted to point out to you today for Bitcoin here on the 1 week chart, so each candle is going to represent 1 week. Right now we're at $9,711. We're down 2.54%. But what I'm looking at here, the last time we really went parabolic and we were in this bull market, each retracement, so after a strong pump that we would have, and remember these are on the weekly candles here, we had a 35% retracement. We had a 41% retracement. We had a 41% retracement. 19% retracement over here. So even while we're still in a bull market, we can have up to 30 to 50% corrections. And that's the name of this game. It corrects very hard and it rips very hard. It corrects very hard and it rips very hard. Back and forth, because the market has to breathe. If it rips so hard, it's going to have to take a huge deep breath, just like after sprinting. So say you sprint as hard as you can. That's like how Bitcoin goes. It's going to take a longer, break than what it would require if you were just jogging, and then what type of break you needed. This is a different market than the Dow Jones, than any of the stocks that you're really going to play in the stock market. I trade the stock market as well, and this is different. It's a different beast, but the volatility in it is absolutely amazing. If you can swing trade cryptocurrency, I think that's the way to go. I'm not so much on the day trading cryptocurrency. I like to swing trade it or do short-term positions in cryptocurrency. I really think that's one of the best things. But as we look at this right here, we're looking at these deep retracements, and now you can see where we're at up here. We have retraced about 12% total, and we're going to measure this as well. But even after this last pump, when we retraced, we went down almost 20%. The Dow Jones hardly moves that in a year. And these are just the opportunities just from swings that are taking place. So when we measure where we're at now, and you can also see where I have my alarm, it's down in this area around $8,800. But right now we have went down a total of about 12% right in this range here. And what you can see at the top on the 1 week, if we zoom into these candles here, you have a doji candle. So that's showing that indecision, and that's happening at the top right here. You also have this, it's almost like a spinning top type deal, so a lot of fight between the bulls and the bears. Then you have a doji, and then we're looking at this week to see if we had continued downside, and we're going to have to take a little bit more of a break, or if this is the area where we just consolidate a little bit before we make that next move to the upside. And right now it's looking decent for Bitcoin here on the 1 week time frame. We're up above our 40 moving average, we're up above our 20 EMA, we're up above our 50 week moving average, and up above our 200 week. So each moving average is based on a week, but this is our 200 week moving average. And one thing we have done a little bit, we've gotten pretty far away from this 200 there. So that's always something you want to keep your eye on. You don't want to be too far away from your moving averages. When you gap too far away or you catch a little bit of air, a lot of times they'll want to come back to that reversion of the mean. So you always want to pay attention to that. But we still haven't even corrected near as much as many pumps in this market do. And for me, what I'm looking at, I want us to stay up above the 50 and the 200 moving average where we had that golden cross on the 1 day time frame. For me, that's an area I want us to stay up above. So I have an alert about $8,800. Now, if we start dropping through $8,800, I'm going to start getting a little bit more nervous, and I'd start looking down to this 50 moving average on the 1 week time frame, and that's at $8,500. That's an area I'd really look for us to find some type of support and get a bounce off that. And guys, the trend for me is still up. We're trying to turn into an intermediate term uptrend right now. The trend is still up, and we're going to have these areas to breathe, but what we need is heavier volume coming in when we do set this higher low, so that we can start coming up here and tackling at 10,300. And then up here around that 11,800, 11,700, that's going to be important areas for us to look at. And then another thing, as we're looking at this trend, we have just broken out of a 6-month downtrend about a month and a half ago, and we put an inverted head and shoulders. You can really see it on the 1-day time frame, but we set that inverted head and shoulders, and that's what pushed us to the upside, and that was our bottoming pattern. So typically trends will want to continue in this space at least about 6 months. You can see this one ran for about 6 months, the correction ran for 6 months, and now we're at about 2 months for this uptrend now leading into the halving. So in my opinion, we need to cool down and really take a nice deep breath before we can start charging into some of these events that could be taking place down the road. But it's so important for us to watch these candles and pay attention to them, because that's showing the buying and the selling back and forth. And a lot of people, I don't think, understand that. Just like up here when we had this gravestone doji and that really long wick right there, that is tons of selling pressure, and it also came on heavy volume. That would have been the sign to get the heck out of here. That's your sign. So when you can look at this stuff and you can learn this technical analysis, it can be so beneficial for your trading. And next, what I wanted to point out here are Fibonacci. So if we go from our swing low up to our swing high, we have tested this 0.618, and you can see these wicks hanging out down here. That was bottom fishing. That was people testing those areas, and they were buying that area up. And you can even see we had a hammer candle here on the 1 week time frame, and that helped push us to the upside. But we've retraced from this first push that we had for 6 months. We retraced all the way to the 0.618, which is a common area where we get a bounce a lot of times, that 0.382, and that's where we're sitting right now. So we have to see if this is going to just be rejected and we're going to start going down. We have to test some deeper areas to cool down a little bit more, or if this is the area that we consolidate on and start popping up into these higher levels into 10,000, 11,000, and I want us to get up above $10,000 and start making that support. I didn't want to start dropping back down below it. I know what happened, but we really want to see 10,000 psychologically become support and not start dropping back below it or fighting back and forth with it. We want a strong support, and then we need to continue to move to the upside. That's something we're looking for with stronger volume. Okay, so that's going to be really important. But for me, the time right now is not to panic. I'm not panicking about this at all. I believe we needed this healthy retracement. Our RSI is at 58 on the 1 week, so cooling down a little bit more before we potentially make that next strong move to the upside. And this isn't financial advice, but that's what I'm looking at right now. And then we look at our stock. Stock is a little overextended, but as you can see, like up through here, you can stay overextended for, that was March 4th. All the way through July, so you can stay overextended for an extremely long time up there. So the stock's beneficial for some things, but it's also a little bit quicker moving oscillator. And then in terms of the MACD, take a look at this. We are to the positive there, histogram ticking up. And I also want to do our awesome oscillator. Awesome oscillator is starting to tick to the positive. So remember, this is all on the 1 week time frame, and the moving averages are up. We bounced off that 0.618. The overall trend has been up for the last couple months, and that's what you would want to see continue. Anything can happen in the space. It's so manipulated, it can dump, but in my opinion, could we cool off a little bit more? Absolutely, but for the most part, we should be getting some type of stronger move to the upside in the days and weeks to come. And you can see I have an alert right here. And this alarm is at 9,339. And I want to know that area because this was our previous resistance that we broke up through. We want it to become support. And then we try to make that next stronger move to the upside. And then if we look at our technicals here, so we go into Trading View and we do our technical analysis. So this is going to calculate all your oscillators, your moving averages, everything. It's showing a 9 for a sell, 10 for a neutral, and 9 for a buy, and that's about right. That's what we were looking at in this technical analysis. We may cool down a little bit more, but we're still in that uptrend. Things are still moving. You can see our moving averages. We have 8 for a sell, we have 1 for a neutral, we have 8 for a buy. Over here, oscillators, 1 for a sell, 9 neutral, 1 buy. So there's just a ton of fighting back and forth. So you can see sell signals, you can see buy signals, you can see neutral signals. So this is really just an area where I believe Bitcoin's taking its breath. We're going to have to see what type of breath it's going to take and how deep a breath it's going to take. But, you know, we could definitely come back down into this area and retest this 50 moving average. We really gapped far away from it. We caught a lot of air. So maybe that's an area we could retest. Like I said, here's my alarm, 9,339 to the downside, and also this $8,800, this 200-day moving average, I want to see hold as support. And then to the upside, I will have an alarm right up here, and this can be at 10,052. I want to be alerted if we start crossing to that to the upside. But, you know, on the daily here, we're fighting with this 20 EMA. We closed up above it yesterday. It looked like a nice close. Didn't come on the most volume, though, so that's why I was a little suspicious. But now you're seeing us start to sell off again. We're going to have to wait till the close of night and examine this candle and see if we're up above or below that 20 EMA. But this is what I just wanted to bring to you guys. In my opinion, I wouldn't panic. You can see we have really big, strong retracements when we have them, and that's just is the name of the game, and we're going to have to see what happens here. So let me know down below what you're doing, and then I'll do my best to try to get back to you in the next day or two, guys. God bless. Take care.